Okay, let's unpack this. We need to talk about the elephant in the ICU.
Mm-hmm.
And no, for once, I'm not talking about the ventilator that keeps alarming in bed 6 or the fact that the coffee machine in the break room has been broken since the Obama administration. I'm talking about something heavier.
Yeah.
I'm talking about burnout.
It is the shadow that hangs over the unit. We all know it's there.
We do. It's that heavy, exhausted feeling that seems to, permeate the walls some days. We all feel it to some degree.
Right.
But usually the conversation just stops at, man, I'm tired, or I need a vacation, or the classic, I just need to get through this rotation.
Exactly. And the problem is, it's not just about being tired. It isn't just needing a nap.
No.
It's a specific clinical triad that has massive implications. I mean, we're talking about an economic loss estimated at $4.6 billion annually.
4.6 billion.
Billion, with a B. And that's just from turnover and reduced productivity,
Yep.
but beyond the money. Because, frankly, administrators care about the money, but we care about the people. It's the human cost. That's what I care about.
The medical errors.
Yeah.
The early retirements. The sheer loss of talent.
Right. And usually when this topic comes up in the break room or at grand rounds, the standard response from the trenches is a massive eye roll.
Oh, yeah.
It's, don't tell me to do yoga, don't tell me to breathe, fix the system, fix the staffing ratios, fix the EMR that makes me click 40 times to order Tylenol.
And honestly, that defensiveness is valid.
It is completely valid. But, and here's where it gets really interesting, we have a new paper today that challenges the idea that those individual interventions are just fluff, that they're just, administrative gaslighting.
That's the big claim we're looking at. We are doing a deep dive into a new meta-analysis that argues structured, individual-focused interventions, things like coaching, mindfulness, peer support. They actually do move the needle on burnout scores.
Okay.
Specifically, they make a significant dent in emotional exhaustion.
But before everyone stops listening and thinks we're about to suggest a mandatory kumbaya circle during morning rounds while the patients are crashing.
Right. There's a catch,
A
right?
huge caveat. The analysts in this paper immediately qualify this. These interventions are adjuncts.
Adjuncts, not cures.
Not cures. They do not replace safe staffing ratios. They do not replace a functional schedule. But, and this is key, they are tools we can use now while we are waiting for the slow wheels of system reform to turn.
I love that framing. It's not either, it's yes and.
Exactly.
It's treating the symptom while we try to cure the disease. So welcome to Prism Rounds, where we break down one study at a time.
Let's do it.
Let's get into the specifics. What are we looking at today?
We are looking at a paper titled Individual-Focused Interventions for Physician Burnout, a meta-analysis of mindfulness, coaching, and peer support.
Okay.
This was published in Medicina in December 2025 by Akram Khan, Debbie Kim, and their colleagues.
December 2025, so this is hot off the press. Fresh data.
Very fresh.
Let's do our standard PI key breakdown so everyone knows exactly who and what we are talking about. Start with the population.
So the population, or P, is strictly physicians, residents and attendings.
This is doctors.
Just doctors. And the authors were incredibly strict here. They actually excluded 16 studies because the data mixed physicians with nurses or other staff, and they couldn't separate out the physician data.
Which is interesting because in the ICU, we are a multidisciplinary team. A nurse's burnout affects me, and my burnout affects the respiratory therapist.
Of course.
But for the sake of scientific rigor, they wanted a clean signal just on doctors.
Precisely. If you mix the populations, you introduce too many variables. The drivers of burnout for a bedside nurse who's, physically present at the bedside for 12 hours straight might be different from an attending physician who is juggling 20 patients and administrative duties.
That's a fair point.
So strictly MDs and DOs.
Got it. Clean data.
Yeah.
What about the intervention, the I?
The intervention focuses on individual-focused programs. They group these into 3 main buckets: mindfulness curricula,
Okay.
professional coaching, and structured peer discussion groups.
Okay, so just to be clear, no organizational redesign in this bucket. No changing the shift length from 24 hours to 12.
No.
No hiring scribes.
No, that would be a different study, a different meta-analysis. This is all about what happens when you work with the individual.
Got it. And the comparator.
The C.
The comparator C was control groups, usually usual practice, waitlist controls, or delayed intervention.
Which usually means keep working and good luck.
Essentially, yes. And the outcome, O, was the Maslach Burnout Inventory, or MBI.
The MBI, the gold standard.
It is. They look specifically at the three subscales: emotional exhaustion, EE, depersonalization, DP, and personal accomplishment, PA.
We're going to dig deep into what those actually mean in a minute, because I think we throw those terms around loosely, and understanding the nuance is actually the key to this whole paper.
It really is.
So first, I want to set the practice bar. We always ask, what would actually change our practice on Monday morning based on this? It's the million-dollar question. If I'm an ICU director or a residency program director and I see this data, the bar is this. If these interventions show a clinically meaningful reduction in burnout, not just statistical noise, but real improvement,
Right.
then I should be funding protected time for peer groups and coaching immediately.
Protected time. That's the magic phrase.
It is. It means not just offering a wellness lecture at 5:00 p.m. when everyone wants to go home.
Ugh, that's the worst.
That actually makes burnout worse. It means integrating it into the paid workday. If the data holds up, that's the practice change. It shifts wellness from a perk to a standard operating procedure.
I love that. From a perk to a procedure. All right, let's back up and set the stage. Body paragraph 1, the background and the gap. Why do we need this study right now?
Well, the burden is undeniable. Burnout is especially prevalent in high acuity environments. If you work in critical care, emergency medicine, or trauma surgery, you are statistically at the highest risk.
Or on the front lines of it.
Absolutely. The intensity, the mortality, the constant high-stakes decision-making, it grinds you down.
Yeah.
And there is a significant gender gap. Women physicians are 27% more likely to experience burnout than their male colleagues.
That is a massive discrepancy. 27%.
Yes. And the literature suggests this is multifactorial, disproportionate burden of home responsibilities, gender bias in the workplace, the emotional tax of being a woman in medicine.
Right. And the impact isn't just, I'm unhappy. It's terrifying.
It is. We know burnout is linked to medical errors. It's linked to suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
It leads to early retirement, which worsens the shortage, which then worsens the burnout for everyone left behind. It's a vicious cycle.
A death spiral.
It is.
Yeah.
And it affects the patient experience, too.
So let's define the enemy. You mentioned the MBI triad. I think most people just say I'm burnt out and treat it like a binary switch on or off, like a light bulb.
Right.
But the Maslach inventory breaks it down into a spectrum. Can you walk us through those three domains?
Yeah.
Because they feel very different chemically.
Absolutely. This is crucial for understanding the results. First, you have emotional exhaustion, or EE. This is the core element.
Is this just being sleepy? Is this, I need a coffee?
No, it's not physical fatigue. You can sleep for 12 hours and still have high emotional exhaustion. It's the feeling that your emotional reserves are bankrupt.
Bankrupt, wow.
There is a specific question on the MBI that asks, I feel used up at the end of the workday.
Used up. That is such a visceral way to put it.
Huh.
Like a tube of toothpaste that's been squeezed flat.
Exactly.
You try to push a little more out for the next patient, but there is just nothing there.
Precisely. It's the inability to give of yourself psychologically. If a patient's family member starts crying and your internal reaction isn't empathy, but rather, oh God, this is going to take 20 minutes, that is high emotional exhaustion.
Oh, man.
You just don't have the fuel to care.
Oof. Yeah. I think we've all been there at 3-0. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first headed monster. What's the second?
The second domain is depersonalization, or DP. And honestly, this is the one that scares me the most.
Why is that?
In the literature, this is often connected to compassion fatigue, but depersonalization is more accurate. It's the cynical element.
It's the armor.
It is. It's a detached attitude toward patients or colleagues. It's when you stop seeing the patient as a person and start seeing them as the GI bleed in room 4.
Train wreck.
The train wreck. Or
Yeah.
you get short with the nurse or the resident.
That's the dangerous one, I think. That's when you start losing your humanity a little bit.
It's a defense mechanism, really. If you let yourself feel the tragedy of every single patient in the ICU, you would collapse. So your brain builds a wall.
Sure.
But that wall separates you from your effectiveness as a healer. And the third domain is personal accomplishment, or PA.
This is the one we want to be high, right?
Correct. So a reduced personal accomplishment means you feel ineffective, you feel incompetent, you feel like what I do doesn't matter, I'm not making a difference.
That learned helplessness.
Yeah.
I can give the pressors or not give the pressors, and the outcome is the same.
Exactly. It's the imposter syndrome creeping in. So high exhaustion, high depersonalization, and low personal accomplishment. That's the classic burnout profile.
Okay, so this study's rationale was really to see if we can move those specific dials.
Yeah.
Previous reviews often mixed individual interventions with organizational ones, like changing the call schedule. This study specifically isolates the self-help style, interventions to see if they work on their own merits.
Right. Are they effective tools or are they just fluff? That's the question.
Let's get into the methods. How do they find the answer? Because wellness studies have a bit of a bad reputation for being, let's say, less than rigorous.
They do. So they did a massive search. They looked at PubMed from 2009 all the way to December 2023. They started with 2,769 records.
Nearly 3,000 studies. That's a lot of literature.
It is. But here's the funnel. They whittled that down to only 6 studies for the quantitative meta-analysis.
Whoa, wait. From 2,700 to 6.
6.
That seems incredibly aggressive. That's not a funnel. That's a brick wall. Why did they throw out 99% of the research?
This is where the rigor comes in, and it's important for the listener to understand. They excluded 16 studies because, as we mentioned, they didn't separate physician data.
Okay.
They excluded 12 because they didn't use the standard MBI. Maybe they used a modified version or a different scale entirely.
They wanted apples to apples.
Exactly. And crucially, they excluded studies that didn't report means and standard deviations.
Ah, the math requirement.
Exactly. To do a meta-analysis, to pool the data mathematically, you need the raw variance, you need the mean score, and the standard deviation.
Right.
A lot of lesser quality studies just report burnout rates dropped by 10%. That's a marketing slogan, not data. You can't put that into a rigorous statistical equation.
So it's about quality control.
Massive quality control. So they lost a lot of data, but what remained was high-quality, comparable data.
I love that. It's like high school calculus.
Yeah.
No work shown, no credit. So we are left with the sacred 6 studies. What did these interventions actually look like? If I'm a participant, what am I actually doing?
There were 3 main flavors. First, mindfulness. The big study here was by Krasner et al., published in JAMA. This wasn't just downloading an app and listening to rain sounds for 5 minutes.
Okay, that's what I was picturing.
No, this was an 8-week intensive course, 2.5 hours per week, plus a 7-hour retreat.
Wow. That is a serious time commitment. That's like taking a graduate-level college course.
It is. It involved meditation, narrative medicine, really deep work. The second flavor was peer support.
Okay.
The key study here was West et al., evaluating the COMPASS groups at Mayo Clinic. This involved physicians getting together for a meal, eating together, and having structured discussions about the meaning of their work.
I love that. Breaking bread. It's so simple, but we rarely do it anymore in the hospital cafeteria context.
Yeah.
We usually just inhale a protein bar while typing notes.
Exactly. And the third flavor was coaching. Derby et al. Looked at professional coaching 6 sessions with a qualified professional coach.
A real coach, not just a senior faculty member.
A real trained coach. And there were also online modules, like the Better Together study by Feinstad, which was specifically for female residents, combining online coaching with group support.
So we have intense mindfulness, structured dinner parties, and professional coaching.
A nice menu.
Essentially, yes.
Before we get to the results, we have to talk about the quality of these studies. What was the risk of bias? Because I imagine studying human behavior is messy.
It's very messy. And this is the elephant in the methodology room. The analyst notes that most studies had a high or unclear risk of bias regarding randomization and allocation.
Why is that?
Think about it. You cannot blind these trials.
Right.
This is what we call performance bias.
Right.
If you are assigned to the dinner group or the coaching group, you know it. And if you were in the control group, you know you aren't getting the free dinner or the coach.
Right. You can't give someone a placebo dinner party. Here, sit at this table and pretend to have a meaningful conversation.
Exactly. So the participants know the intervention, which might influence their answers on a self-reported survey like the MBI.
Sure. That's a limitation we just have to accept in this field. We aren't measuring blood pressure here. We're measuring feelings from people who know they are being treated.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's pause here for a second. Pause. #1. We always like to ask, how can this fool us? What are the validity threats we need to keep in our minds before we get too excited about the results?
I'd list 5 main threats. First, the small evidence base.
We already mentioned that.
We are pooling only 6 studies with a total of 585 physicians. In the world of cardiology or oncology, N equals 585 is a pilot study.
It's tiny.
In medical education, it's decent, but it's not massive.
So small numbers. What else?
Second, self-selection. Even in randomized trials, the people who agree to be in a study about mindfulness might be different from the general population. Are they more motivated to change? Are they more open to woo-woo stuff?
Right. The grumpy intensivist who thinks feelings are for the weak probably didn't sign up.
Exactly.
And that grumpy intensivist might be the one who needs it the most.
Exactly. Third, we already mentioned blinding. It's impossible.
Can't be done.
Fourth is reporting bias. Remember those studies that were dropped because they didn't report means and SDs?
Yeah.
Were those the failed studies? Sometimes researchers don't report the detailed math if the result wasn't significant, so we might be seeing a best-case scenario here.
That's a really important point. The file drawer effect. Negative studies get stuck in a drawer, and the positive ones get published.
And fifth, heterogeneity. We are lumping together an online module and an in-person retreat. Are those really the same intervention?
Good question.
The statistical heterogeneity, the I-squared, helps us measure this, but conceptually, it's a bit of a fruit salad.
Okay, skepticism noted. But let's look at the data. Body paragraph 4. The results. Does this stuff work, or is it just fluff? What did the calculator say?
Let's start with the big winner, emotional exhaustion, E. The pooled analysis showed a reduction of 5.56 points.
5.56.
The 95% confidence interval was roughly -6.7 to -4.4. The p-value was less than 0.000001.
Okay, that sounds highly statistically significant. But help us translate 5.56 points. Without context, that's just a number. Is that a lot? Is that like losing 5 pounds or losing 50 pounds?
It's significant. To give you a benchmark, in the MBI world, a change of just 1 point is statistically linked to higher rates of medical errors and suicidal ideation.
Whoa. So a 1-point shift is the difference between safe and danger zone.
It's a step in that direction, a meaningful step. So a 5.5-point drop, that is massive.
Wow.
That is potentially moving a physician from the high burnout category, where they are thinking about quitting medicine, down to the moderate or even low category. That's a palpable difference in how you feel when you wake up in the morning.
That's impressive. 5 points is a real shift in energy. What about the cynicism? Depersonalization.
That also saw a significant reduction. It went down by 2.11 points. Again, statistically significant.
So slightly less detached. That feels smaller than the exhaustion drop.
It is smaller,
Yeah.
but depersonalization is a harder nut to crack. Cynicism is a very thick armor.
It is.
But interestingly, when you break it down by intervention type, we see a fascinating split.
Tell me more.
The coaching interventions, specifically the Derby study, crushed depersonalization. They dropped it by over 4 points.
Coaching crushed the cynicism. Why do you think coaching hits that harder than, say, meditation?
Well, think about it. Meditation is internal. It helps me feel calm.
Right.
But coaching is relational. It's usually about reframing your narrative, understanding your role in the system. A good coach holds up a mirror and says, "Why are you so angry at that patient?" It forces you to dismantle the cynicism in a way that breathing exercises might not.
That makes so much sense. You can't breathe away a toxic worldview. You have to talk it out.
Exactly. And finally, personal accomplishment, PA. This actually increased by 2.01 points.
And we want this to go up.
We want this to go up. So physicians felt more effective at their jobs.
They felt more competent.
Yes. And this had the lowest heterogeneity, TWIVE at 022 of 27%. It means that almost any attention paid to the physician makes them feel more competent. Whether you send them to a dinner brew, get them a coach, or put them in a mindfulness class.
It doesn't matter what it is.
The method almost doesn't matter. Just the act of investing in them seems to trigger a, "Hey, I matter and I'm good at my job" response.
It's almost like treating humans like humans makes them better doctors. Radical concept.
Oh no, right? Shocking.
So let's translate this for the team. If I'm a resident versus an attending, what does this mean for me?
For the resident, looking at the Feinstad Better Together study, peer groups and coaching seem to really target that imposter syndrome, which is linked to low personal accomplishment.
Okay.
It helps you realize, I belong here, I can do this.
And for the grumpy attending?
Professional coaching seems to be the high-yield intervention. It restores meaning, it reduces that detachment, it helps you process the years of accumulated stress.
I like that distinction. Pause. #2. Mechanisms and trade-offs. Why do these things work? Because honestly, sitting in a room talking doesn't change the fact that the ICU is understaffed.
It doesn't, but the recurring theme in the mechanism discussion is community.
Community.
Whether it's a coach or a peer group, it breaks the isolation. Medicine, strangely, is a very lonely team sport.
That is a perfect phrase.
You are surrounded by people, nurses, techs, patients, but you often feel alone in your decision-making and your stress.
Lonely team sport. That is such a perfect description of the ICU. You are the captain of the ship, but you're in a storm, and you can't show fear.
Exactly. And these interventions provide normalization.
Normalization.
You sit in that compass group and you hear a colleague say, I cried on the way home yesterday, and you realize, oh, thank God, it's not just me.
Right. I'm not broken.
I'm not broken. That reduces the moral injury. It reduces the distress.
The trade-offs.
Right.
You have to talk about the cost.
Yeah.
Not just money, but the most valuable currency in the hospital, time.
Exactly. The Krasner study was 2.5 hours a week plus a retreat. In an ICU with staffing shortages, where does that time come from? Who covers the pager?
That's the rub. If I go to a mindfulness class, but my pager's still going off,
Yeah.
or I know that work is just piling up for me to do later,
Yeah.
that's not wellness. That's just delayed stress.
Right. Relax, breathe, while your inbox explodes.
Exactly. And access. Professional coaching is expensive.
Mhm.
Derby's study used professional coaches. Can every hospital afford to hire coaches for every staff member?
Probably not.
No way.
And then there's the Band-Aid argument. I play devil's advocate here a lot. Does focusing on mindfulness let the hospital administration off the hook?
Yeah.
Does it distract from the need for better EMRs and more nurses? Is it just a way to say, we fix the worker so we don't have to fix the factory?
It's a valid fear.
It is. But the authors of this meta-analysis are very clear. These are adjuncts. They explicitly state these do not replace system reform. But think of it like this. If you have a patient with sepsis, you treat the infection, that's the system reform. You give antibiotics,
Sure.
but you also give Tylenol for the fever. That's the symptom management. You don't withhold the Tylenol just because antibiotics are the real cure. You do both.
That's a great analogy. Treat the fever while we fight the infection.
Okay.
Okay, let's move to critical appraisal. We need to look at the stats a bit more closely. Talk to me about heterogeneity, the I2 outer.
So for emotional exhaustion, the heterogeneity was moderate. I2.up was 42%.
Meaning the studies varied a bit in their results.
Yes, which makes sense. Comparing an app to a dinner group is going to yield some variance.
Sure.
But interestingly, for personal accomplishment, the heterogeneity was low 22 of 27%.
What does that tell us?
It suggests that the boost in confidence, that feeling of I can do this, is remarkably consistent across different types of interventions.
Wow.
Whether it's mindfulness or coaching, you feel more capable. The method matters less than the intent.
I want to touch on the lost studies.
Yeah.
The ones that didn't make the math cut but were in the qualitative review. Anything cool there?
A couple of gems. There was a study by Weitzman on VR virtual reality for ENT residents.
VR.
Yeah. It showed promise for stress reduction, but the data reporting wasn't standard, so it got cut. But imagine popping on a headset in the call room for 10 minutes to transport yourself to a beach.
I would do that in a heartbeat. Anything to escape the fluorescent lights.
Right. And then there was a study by Waite et al. On exercise, an incentivized exercise program. Guess what?
Oh.
It didn't show a difference in burnout.
Wait, really? Everyone says just exercise more. Go for a run.
It suggests that gym memberships aren't the cure for professional burnout. Burnout is professional distress. Running on a treadmill might help your cardiovascular health, but it doesn't fix the feeling that your job is crushing you. You need professional focused interventions for that.
That is validating. Stop telling me to run away my burnout. What about external validity? Does this apply to our listeners in a private community ICU?
That's a limitation. Most of these were academic medical centers, AMCs, Mayo Clinic, university hospitals. Resources are different there. Culture is different.
True.
Does a Compass group work in a busy private practice where partners are competing for RVUs and every minute away from patient care means lost income?
Probably not in the same way.
Maybe, but it's untested.
Yeah.
And there's language bias. Only English studies were included.
Okay, let's bring it home. Body paragraph 7. Practice implications. The verdict. We use the framework. Adopt, adapt. Oh, wait. What should we adopt?
Adopt. Structured peer support groups. The Compass model. It's low cost, basically the cost of dinner.
Buy some pizza.
It has high impact on connection. It hits both exhaustion and cynicism. Every unit should try this. If you are a director, buy the pizza.
What should we adapt?
Adapt. Coaching. It works beautifully, especially for cynicism, but it's expensive. Maybe adapt it to group formats like the Better Together study to make it cost-effective.
Good idea.
Or use senior faculty as mentors, provided they are trained.
And wait.
Long-term durability data. We know these work at 6 months. Do the effects last 2 years later? We don't really know yet.
All right, give me the 3 takeaways to memorize.
Takeaway 1. It works modestly. Individual interventions significantly reduce emotional exhaustion by about 5.5 points and reduce depersonalization. It's real. It moves the needle.
Takeaway 2.
Connection is key. The common thread in the successful trials, whether coaching or peer groups, is human connection. It's not just solitary meditation. It's interacting with a human or a group. We heal in community.
I love that. And takeaway 3.
Not a silver bullet. These are supplements to system reform, staffing workload, not replacements. Don't let admin sell you a mindfulness app instead of a night float system.
Demand both.
Demand both.
Love it. And here's our actionable rounds question for you to ask your leadership this week. Does our unit provide protected time for structured peer discussion, or are we just hoping people bond in the hallway?
That's the question. Hope is not a strategy.
Exactly. Well, that wraps up this deep dive into the prism of physician burnout.
It's a hopeful study, honestly. It gives us agency. It says there is something we can do for ourselves and each other.
It does. If you found this helpful, share with a colleague, subscribe so you don't miss next week's study, and send us your next paper.
Stay safe out there.
And take care of each other. See you next time.